Hello guys, we are back in our second series. I think you've installed all the previous components we talked about in the last lecture. Now let us continue. If you've done that, you come here and you click at the left bottom corner. For me, I'm using Windows 10. I don't know which Windows you are using, but you just try to search for MySQL query browser. It's the one I'm using. So click on MySQL query browser and you insert the password which you've inserted when you are installing MySQL. Mine is here, it's encrypted, and you don't need to know it, you just need to know the one which you've created. Now the moment you open MySQL, you will be able to see lists of databases here. So these databases you see here, now we are going to create our schema. You just come here in the right section, right click here, create new schema. So let us call our schema or database food app, and we press OK. After pressing OK, right click on the schema and you create a new table. Let us call our table menu list, and then we try to also put our column name here. You know, when we are designing tables, I think we have some knowledge about this. It's better to begin with an ID. So I'm going to call this menu ID, and I'm going to give this a data type of integer, and there are some other attributes which are attached on this column. There is this one, not null. You have to check it to ensure that this column does not accept any null values. There is this one also, auto incrementing. If this value has this thing auto incrementing, it makes sure that whatever value is added in the database will just make an auto increment. So this column name is done. Let's also add another column. Let us call it food name. Ensure that do not put spaces between these words. The database programming algorithms behind MySQL will not understand this, and it will cause an exception. So you have to add this word as one word, or you can put an underscore, or you can use camel casing. It depends on what you want. So for me, I'm going to leave it like this. Let's give this variable character, and we are going to accept only 45 characters, and we have to also check here not null. We are not going to allow null values. And lastly, let's add another last column, and we call it price. This price is going to be the price of the food. So since we have lots of different pricings internationally, we use what we call a certain data type, what we call double. Double ensures to allow points in the digits. For example, we've ever heard about USD can be calculated in digits, but there are some currencies which have some difficulty when it comes to digits, like they take long to use digits. For example, here in Uganda, you can spend like a full month without using points in the in the what? In our currency. So, but there are some other currencies, and most of them do have this capability of having points everywhere in their currencies. So that's why double is the one which is more emphasized when it comes to price. So let us also make it note now. So after doing all this, down here you will see apply changes. You just come here down and you apply the changes, and then you execute. After executing, the table will be created. So you come here and you refresh, and you come back here up in your food app database, you will be able to see menu list here. So let us double click on it. They'll bring an SQL query, a MySQL query here. So you put here your cursor and you try to come here in this green button, and you try to run. You just click here and it will be able to show you all the columns of the table. So we are done with creating the table. It's very simple, and I know most of you know about this. It's just a simple thing. So let us try to add some data in our table. The reason as to why I chose my SQL query browser is because it's fast, and secondly, it saves time. No need of coding and wasting time. No need of going in the black console and you start coding, because in the industry, no one is going to ask you about these techniques that guy knows how to code in the console. No. At the end of the day, they want the results. They want you to show you, they want you to show them what are the outcomes of what you did. So instead of wasting time in that black console, just come here in MySQL query browser and you make things fast. And by the way, they are the same executions. They will do the same thing. So I don't see the reason as to why a person spends much time there coding, unless when you are a beginner and you want to learn all the SQL syntax. Okay, now let us try to add some items here. You just come here down and you click on this edit, and you come back here, double click here in this column, and you try to write. So let us add burger. Let us say it's around 10.5, and we add rice. Let us say it's around 100. Let us add potato. Let's say it's around 35. We add chicken. We can add fish. We can add matoke. We can also add other types of food. So here you can try to add in some prices for the purposes of learning. Yeah, so that's all. And you, after doing that, you come down here and you apply changes. So after pressing down here, all the changes will be applied. So these are the items which we've inserted in our menu list table. Now, after doing all this, remember this data is going to be accessed in our mobile application. We haven't yet started developing a mobile application, but we have to first make sure that after setting up our database, we have to make sure that everything is working fine. Since this database is going to be used as an API, we have to introduce something very new, something more powerful in MySQL, and that something is called a stored procedure. A stored procedure is like what we call a non-returnable method. For those people who know how to code, it's like what we call a void method. A void method doesn't return anything, but we can put our logic in that void method to execute something. So this stored procedure is going to help us to capture our business logic, and it is going to execute at the end of the day results which are needed by us. So it holds a bunch of queries which are used to execute a certain result or results. Now, how is a stored procedure created? Come here on your database, right click on the database and create a new stored procedure. So after doing that, remember, in this chapter we are going to focus on retrieving these items from the database. So which means that we have to make a stored procedure which is going to retrieve these items from the database. So let us call it get menu list. Get menu list. Getting is the same as retrieving. Then after doing that, you press here create procedure. So a procedure will be created. So here they will put this templated code, drop procedure if exists foot up, get menu list. They open these signs, and then here they say create procedure, this one, begin and delimiter. So this is the code which creates the stored procedure. And here create procedure food up, this is the name of the stored procedure, and this is the name of the database we created food up. So these two brackets you are seeing here, these are the parameters. These parameters can be made like a developer can put as many parameters he wants in these parentheses you see here. Sorry about that. So these parentheses you see here, these brackets you see here, we can put as many parameters as we want. So this is the parameter section of a stored procedure, like that of a method in code, most especially those who code in Java and C#. So begin and end, this section is a boundary, meaning that in between here, begin and end, we have to put our query between begin and end. So anything which is placed outside begin and end, an error will be thrown or nothing will work out. So ensure that your query is placed between here. So since we want to get a menu list, we are going to say select all from menu list. So this query is going to return all of the values from menu list. So after doing that, you come here up and you execute. After executing, you open here, you'll see another thing which is added below the database food app, and you see even the icon is quite different. So when you see this type of icon, you just know that it's called a function. So we've just created a function, and this function is going to return all the lists of the menu items. Let us try to test this function. If you want to test this function, double click on it. So when you double click on this function, they will show you here call get menu list. So this call is going to call this stored procedure to execute what was inside here, this business logic, the one which I was talking about. So come back here and you press here, you place here your cursor, and then you execute. Oh, After running the stored procedure, here down they'll throw an error, and the error is saying that no database selected. You have to first make sure that you select the database. How are you going to select the database? Just double click on the database until the word becomes bold. So after doing that, come back here, place here the cursor, and then you run again. You see? The same results we've got here from select all from food app is the same result we've got here from the stored procedure. So meaning that this stored procedure is holding the same query which was here up. This query was selecting all the items, and we've also made the stored procedure to select all the menu list from the table menu list. I hope this is understandable. Please make sure that you understand this very well. You can rewind back the video and you try to focus on a stored procedure. Stored procedures are very powerful and they help a lot in business logic. So let me end here with this series, and I hope it was clear enough.